These Marines are in top shape, ready for the physical demands of combat. Physical conditioning like this, along with realistic training, prepares Marines to fight and win on the battlefield. Like every Marine that I landed with on the beaches of Kwajalein, Eniwetok, Saipan during World War II, we were ready to fight before we shipped out to the Pacific. Everything a Marine does in peacetime prepares him emotionally and physically to be victorious on the battlefield. Beginning with the raw materials of strong character and worthy values, leadership skills are carefully molded by the expert hands of drill instructors and unit leaders. Hammered into fighting shape in the forge of intense training, hardened by the fires of Marine tradition, galvanized by self-discipline, pride, and patriotism. These Marines are gaining skills in small unit tactics and leadership. They are fortunate to be learning such skills from a combat veteran who saw them work in Vietnam. The combat wisdom that is hard for him to pass on, however, is what war itself is really like. It takes the actual living and the intense and awesome reality of war to appreciate the thoughts, the hopes, the fears that run riot in the minds of men in combat.
And eliminate them with the maximum firepower that's available to you.
It begins with the waiting. Waiting to go in. Waiting to take off. To move out. To move up. Waiting to go into what one Marine combat veteran calls the savage, brutal, exhausting, and dirty business of war. E.B. Sledge, nicknamed the Sledgehammer, saw and felt combat at its most intimate level, that of the grunt. Sledge remembers his first campaign, voicing the thoughts, the feelings of every Marine before his first attack.
Would I ever see my family again? Would I do my duty or be a coward? Could I kill? I never experienced any more agonizing suspense than the excruciating torture of those moments before we received the signal to begin the assault. I broke out in a cold sweat as the tension mounted with the intensity of the bombardment. My stomach was tied in knots. I had a lump in my throat, swallowed with great difficulty. I felt nauseated and feared that my bladder would empty itself and reveal me to be the coward I was.
Fear, a reality of war. Fear of the always present danger of being killed or wounded, anticipation of the unexpected, apprehension that one may not measure up as a Marine under fire, or letting a brother Marine down. Fear grips all men going into combat to some degree or another. But fear does not mean the lack of courage. Courage means overcoming fear and doing one's duty in the presence of danger, not being unafraid. Confidence in their previous training, their leadership, their fellow Marines, and themselves is enough to overcome most fears. When the orders came, the Marines around them moved as every Marine is trained and committed to, against the enemy. The end of a patrol, a battle, a campaign. You can see in the eyes of each survivor the price he's paid. Yet throughout the history of the Corps, Marine combat veterans have gone on to fight again, and for good reason. Combat is a vindication of Marine training, proof that each Marine can use his weapon and equipment efficiently in combat. Proof that he can trust and depend upon the Marines on each side of him and on his leadership. What inspires Marines to excel like no other fighting man? There is something special about Marine esprit de corps that can be sensed right away. A British observer, while watching a Marine regiment move against a communist division in a last-ditch effort to save the Busan perimeter, our last toehold in Korea, said, and I quote, "They are faced with impossible odds, but I have a feeling that they will halt the enemy." I realize my expression of hope is unsound, but these Marines have a swagger, snap, confidence, and hardness that is so apparent. Upon this line of reasoning, I cling to the hope of victory. Esprit de corps is built on commitment. More than anything else, men have fought and teams have won because of commitment. It's a commitment to a leader and to a small brotherhood, where the important things are mutual respect, confidence, shared hardships, shared dangers, shared victories, discipline, and perseverance.
Line Sam, go Rick, one up.
For his comrades who struggled, bled, and died, and eventually won on Peleliu in Okinawa, E.B. Sledge wrote in his book, and I quote, "We forged a bond that time would never erase. Marine Corps training taught us to kill efficiently and to try to survive. But it also taught us loyalty to each other and love." The legendary chesty puller loved by his men, not only because he accomplished the mission, but also because he took care of them. Today's generation of young Marines operating state-of-the-art equipment. Do the concepts of discipline, unit identity, tradition, esprit de corps, teamwork, mission accomplishment have a different meaning to these Marines than they did to us 40 years ago? Is a different approach to leadership needed to inspire these conditions? The Marines over there are all NCOs, going through a leadership course. They've been taught leadership traits and principles throughout their training. The same ones taught to my leaders in World War II. The same ones taught to leaders during Vietnam, the Korean War, and long before. Those leadership principles and traits have withstood the test of time, and the foremost test, the battlefield. Throughout our long, proud history, combat veterans have taught untried Marines how to fight, to lead, and win on the battlefield. As these veterans leave the Corps, they take their combat experience with them. But to those who would study and learn from those experiences, the wisdom of combat will not be lost. In these Marines stands the Corps' future combat leadership. Before reaching this day, this place of honor, they were no different than any other young American men. But they have been hammered into form in a different forge, hardened by a different fire, earning the right to muster with the elite, the few, the proud. If called upon, there is no doubt that they will fight with incredible bravery and win on any battlefield in the same tradition of those combat Marines who have gone before them.